Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a difficult situation with no clear way out? Maybe you're facing financial struggles, relationship issues, or health problems, and you just can't seem to find a solution. It is easy to feel hopeless in times like these, but there is one thing you can always hold on to: the belief that God will make a way. Throughout history, people have turned to God in times of hardship and adversity. From the Israelites wandering in the desert to the early Christians facing persecution, there are countless examples of individuals and communities who have trusted in God to provide for their needs and guide them through difficult times. And while our own struggles may feel unique and overwhelming, the same God who helped others in the past is still with us today, ready to make a way for us. One of the most powerful examples of God making a way comes from the story of Moses and the Israelites. As they fled from Egypt and crossed the Red Sea, they faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles. But in Exodus 14:21 and 22, we saw that the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. With God's help, the Israelites were able to cross the sea safely and continue their journey towards the promised land. This story reminds us that God is always in control, even when our circumstances feel out of our hands. He can work miracles and make a way where there seems to be no way. When we trust in Him and have faith that He will provide for us, we can have peace and hope even in the midst of difficult circumstances. Of course, this doesn't mean that everything will magically become easy or that we won't face challenges. But it does mean that we can face those challenges with a sense of strength and purpose, knowing that we are not alone and that God is with us every step of the way. We can pray for guidance and wisdom, seek out help from others, and trust that God will provide the resources we need to overcome our struggles. In Isaiah 43:19, God says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth, do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." This verse is a reminder that God is always at work, even in the midst of difficult and uncertain times. He can create new opportunities, bring new people into our lives, and help us see our situation in a different light. We just need to trust in Him and be open to the ways that He might be working in our lives. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or discouraged today, remember that God will make a way. It may not be the way that you expect or want, but it will be the way that is best for you. Keep praying, keep seeking guidance, and keep trusting in Him. With God on your side, you can face any challenge and come out stronger on the other side. When we trust in God, He has the power to provide for us in ways that we could never have imagined. We may not always understand why we are going through difficult times, but we can trust that God has a plan for our lives and that He will make a way for us. One of my favorite examples of this is the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers and ended up in Egypt, where he was falsely accused and thrown into prison. Despite his many trials, Joseph never lost faith in God. In fact, he continued to trust in God even in the darkest of circumstances. And eventually, God made a way for Joseph. He was released from prison, rose to a position of power in Egypt, and was able to save his family from a famine. Joseph's story is a powerful reminder that even in the midst of our trials, God is always at work behind the scenes, orchestrating things for our good. Another example of God making a way is found in the story of the widow of Zarephath in 1 Kings 17. The widow was down to her last bit of flour and oil, and was preparing to make a final meal for herself and her son before they starved to death. But then Elijah the prophet showed up and asked the widow to make him a meal. Despite her dire circumstances, the widow trusted in God and obeyed Elijah's request. And as a result, God miraculously provided for her and her sons. The flour and oil never ran out, and they were able to survive until the famine ended. This story is a reminder that when we trust in God and obey His commands, He will always provide for us. So if you're facing difficult times today, take heart. God is with you, and He will make a way for you. It may not happen overnight, and it may not happen in the way that you expect, but God is faithful and He will provide for you. Keep praying, keep seeking guidance, and keep trusting in Him. As it says in Proverbs 3:5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him and He will make your path straight. With God on your side, you can face any challenge and come out stronger on the other side. So keep your faith, keep your hope, and keep your eyes fixed on Him. Sometimes when we face challenges, it can be easy to lose hope and feel like we're stuck in an impossible situation. But when we turn to God and put our trust in Him, He can make a way where there seems to be no way. This is not to say that our problems will magically disappear, but rather that God can provide us with the strength and wisdom we need to navigate through difficult times. In addition to the stories of Joseph and the widow of Zarephath, there are many other examples throughout the Bible where God made a way for His people. The story of the Israelites in the wilderness is a great example of this. The Israelites were facing starvation and dehydration in the desert, with no visible sources of food or water. But God provided for them by sending manna from heaven and water from a rock. The Israelites had to trust in God's provision each day, but He never failed to provide for their needs. Another example is found in the story of the walls of Jericho. When the Israelites were preparing to enter the Promised Land, they faced a seemingly impenetrable obstacle, the fortified city of Jericho. But God gave them specific instructions to march around the city and blow trumpets, and on the seventh day, the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. Once again, God made a way for His people when there seemed to be no way. These stories remind us that God is always at work in our lives, even when we can't see it. When we trust in Him and put our faith in His provision, He can do amazing things. As it says in Matthew 17:20, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." When we have faith in God, He can move mountains in our lives and make a way for us. So if you're feeling discouraged or overwhelmed today, take heart. God is with you, and He will make a way for you. It may not happen in the way that you expect, and it may require patience and perseverance on your part. But God is faithful, and He will provide for you. Keep praying, keep seeking guidance, and keep trusting in Him. With God on your side, nothing is impossible. So hold on to your faith, and know that God will make a way for you. It's important to remember that even when we can't see a way forward, God is always working behind the scenes to bring about His plans and purposes. Sometimes the challenges we face can be blessings in disguise, as they force us to rely on God and develop a deeper trust in Him. As it says in Romans 8:28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." When we trust in God and submit to His purposes for our lives, He can use even the most difficult situations to bring about good. In addition to the stories in the Bible, there are countless examples of people in modern times who have experienced God making a way for them. I've personally known people who have faced seemingly impossible situations, like a diagnosis of cancer or the loss of a loved one, but who have found strength and comfort in their faith in God. They've seen Him work miracles in their lives and provide for their needs in unexpected ways. One example that comes to mind is the story of Nick Vujicic, a man born without arms or legs who has become a motivational speaker and author. Despite his physical challenges, Nick has found hope and purpose in his faith in God. He has traveled the world sharing his story and encouraging others to persevere through their own struggles. Through his testimony, he has shown that with God's help, we can overcome any obstacle. So if you're feeling like there's no way forward, remember that God can make a way. He can provide for your needs, give you strength and wisdom, and guide you through even the darkest of times. Keep your faith strong, and trust that God has a plan and a purpose for your life. As it says in Isaiah 40 verse 31, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." With God's help, you can soar above your challenges and overcome them. Hallelujah.